Cause and effects. Have you ever felt like you have become a new version of yourself, often reflecting on past experiences of happier times? In a room full of people, being the life of a party was something that came naturally to me. But as I settled into society and felt the pressures that came along with the assimilation, I began to put my guard up. My life was no longer my own. I had to grow up quicker than others, work and learn 3 times as hard, and even then, I still felt alone, neglected, and emotionally drained. My story might be different than others, but I bet there is something someone might be able to relate to. Feeling under pressure, distant, and alone is something many people feel every day. I think mental health is very timely and relevant, now more than ever. Minorities are proof that America lacks the opportunity, resources, and support needed to help Generation Z survive in this devastating time. Not only are minorities proof, but so are people who were impacted by COVID-19 and college students. Being all three of those people in this generation gives me a chance to show you how people like me really feel. Socially and economically, minorities are at a disadvantage for opportunities, resources, and support. They lack these things for several reasons. When you think of a doctor's office, who do you picture? Someone who looks like you or someone different? For people of color, finding equal representation in the medical field is very difficult. Generally, colored people detest seeking medical attention. When it comes down to the medical system, the number of colored people who receive treatment is at an all-time low. Adding a lack of representation for people of color not only makes it difficult for them to feel comfortable, it's also hard for them to be willing to receive help from somebody who does not recognize their struggles. According to studies done by Medical Health America, help-seeking behaviors is affected by mistrust of the medical system and often begins with faith-based outreach. However, MHA screening data shows that Black and African American people who screen positive for depression self-identify as planning to seek help at higher rates than the general population says they will. This means that without the help of the medical system, people of color tend to not seek help, especially when they need it. Not only do they have a mistrust of this system, for many reasons they tend to focus more on their faith, believing in a higher power. During slavery, blacks would often sing Negro spirituals that would bind them together and give them a sense of hope during the tough times. In those times, it was extremely difficult for blacks to trust white people, especially with the mistreatment that blacks received. Although it was hundreds of years ago, that could be why African Americans still have that mistrust in the system, due to the systematic racism that was the foundation at that time. America has not yet gained the trust of many minorities, especially blacks and African Americans. They have been through so much trauma and violence, causing that trust to still be an obstacle today. That trust can sometimes be seen through certain people and the things that they do, but it takes time and effort for that trust to be properly pieced together. Without the trust and help of white Americans, people of color still lack the opportunity and resource needed to get themselves help. In addition to the historical trauma in which many minorities faced, the new stack of pressures that approach with the most petrifying pandemic of the century exploded the entire world. COVID-19 shook the whole foundation of life as people knew it. A lot happened in 2020 that no one could have foreseen. Thousands of lives were lost throughout the world, and many are still dying. The effects of this pandemic will never be forgotten. The pandemic has caused numerous anguishes to many who have lost their jobs, family members, and homes. Most minorities are the ones who are affected by the pandemic. People of color have less financial stability than white Americans. Some minorities do not have enough resources to have a stable life in this country today. Living on a check-to-check basis makes it difficult to maintain a luxury life during the pandemic, causing stress in many homes. This could be why African Americans are disproportionately affected by this pandemic. Not only do more Black people have underlying conditions, but many are also financially unstable. So even if they were sick, it may be hard for them to seek help because they do not have the opportunity to leave work freely like others do. And it is hard for them to pay the medical bills. In the article, Not All Money Troubles Are Created Equally by Gillian B. White on April 21st, 2016, states that it may be true that this can happen to anyone, but for minorities, it's far, far more likely. It's also true that in the event of a downfall, personal or market-wide, they fall harder, faster. They have fewer resources for digging themselves out of a hole, and they are unlikely to know anyone who is much better off, who could spot them the needed cash. Financial insecurity is no way an equal opportunity offender. COVID-19 has been that downfall, where minorities are struggling to financially support themselves and their families. With the lack of funds during quarantine, many families are losing possessions of their homes and having to start over, becoming homeless or having to move in to their friends' apartments just to have a room over their heads. Not only is COVID-19 affecting families, but their children's education is also being impacted by the lack of funds to get them through college. Minorities have been struggling for generations to get their kids through school. A number of colored people are unable to attend college due to the lack of funds provided by their families. Not only do they not have enough money, but many colored students who enter into college end up dropping out because of the absence of support from families and their school. You see on television, in TV shows, and in movies how many minorities are perceived. They show you how, without school, surviving as a minority means that you have to join a gang or be on the street selling drugs. Without that support, maybe it is true. Support is something humans need in their lives. Everyone thinks that they're invincible and can do anything they want on their own, but that isn't always true. Human needs that someone in their corner to help them, support them, and just be there so they can survive. Talking to someone is the best thing a person needs. that human contact is something we all crave. It is something we need and we all deserve, no matter who we are. Not having that support can only hinder us and leave us feeling hopeless, neglected, and alone. Today, many people feel that absence in their life. Lacking that support, whoever it may be, takes away how the person might survive in this world. Humans need that one person they can go to and talk to about anything, from the most embarrassing moment they might have experienced to the happiest memory in their life. People need that connection, but only few have it. Many college students are struggling with depression and anxiety, but with the support, they might have the power to overcome all the pressures they go through and become another graduate who might just make a difference in this world today. In an article in the Best Counseling Degrees, written on November 14, 2020, the International Journal of Mental Health System found that social support minimized the effects of stress on depression for college students. Because stress can exacerbate symptoms of depression, it is important to know that social connection can reduce the impact of stress. If you are feeling depressed, it is likely that you may not be engaging in activities that you once were. Mental health can be the root of many problems for many people, but with the support and help from others, there might be a way to help families survive through their struggles. Having that person in your corner, no matter what you are going through, can give you a sense of hope when you're in a dark place. Those dark thoughts can swallow you whole if you let them, but given a chance, that person in your life can help you get through the tough times. With that being said, according to the Mental Health America, historical adversity, which includes slavery, sharecropping, and race-based exclusion from health, educational, social, and economic resources, translate into socioeconomic disparities experienced by Black and African American people today. Socioeconomic status, in turn, is linked to mental health. People who are impoverished, homeless, incarcerated, or have substance use problems are at a higher risk for poor mental health. This is partly due to the mistrust of certain authority figures. For example, having white law enforcement in a predominantly Black neighborhood will lead to a greater disparity between the two. That alone can lead to an uptake in drug use and crimes because the community will no longer view them as an authority figure, but more as a master trying to control them. As with anyone, a group would feel more comfortable with like-minded people who understand the culture. People of color was not given the chance to succeed because of slavery. Though we might have the opportunity to receive health care, get educated, socialize with our own kind, and even own property, the world still does not accept that we are their equals. 2020 should have been the year where people came together despite their differences, but that was not the case. This year, everyone caused each other pain, and no compromise was found. America is surviving on just tolerance alone, and no one knows how long that will last. Overall, having a mental health issue is difficult for many people, but minorities with the effects of everything else they have to do and still have to deal with makes their lives even more complicated and insane. The effects of COVID-19 impacted so many lives and are still taking many more. The world has changed and is evolving into something that can simply change how everyone thinks about things. People are getting more in touch with their feelings and becoming more open about what is happening in their lives. They are talking about how they feel at work, at school, or at home. But it starts with having that conversation and showing someone that you care to make the world a better place so that no one has to feel neglected, oppressed, boxed in, or controlled. While it is easy to sit here and list the difficulties people of color face in terms of accessing mental health resources, minor changes can make all the difference. While the medical field is a blooming business and takes up a large sector in the economy, opening centers in areas that are underserved and at low rates can help combat the difficulties of accessing professionals. Opening up the window of conversation within households of African Americans centered around help-seeking actions can eliminate the feeling of ostracism when one chooses to look for assistance. Although it may seem simple, there is no clear-cut answer to solving the larger issues that people of color face. But if you take a moment to stop, think of ways to help, and execute a plan, progress in the right direction can make a difference. Thank you.